Hi, and welcome to the last session of the day. So we've covered a lot of ground today, from discussing taxonomies across the region, fragmentation, climate risk, sustainability in the cloud, ESG scores and ratings, which obviously has come up in a lot of the sessions, and of course, making sure we don't focus only on the E or even climate. So this session really gives us an opportunity to look forward at some of the emerging technologies being used in helping to solve some of the challenges we've been discussing today. So I'm absolutely delighted to be joined in this special fireside chat with my guests from LSEG Labs in Singapore, Allison, Ching and Nitish Ramkumar. Perhaps if you'd like to introduce yourselves first, Allison.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Allison, Program Director for the Sustainable Finance Unit at LSEG Labs. I oversee a range of sustainable finance initiatives that focus on innovative projects, engagements with stakeholders, and thought leadership. So my background is a mix of program management, business operations, and communications. I started my career as a news and business editor before going to business school. And after B school, I spent the last 6 years in the tech sector. And prior to joining LSEG, I was a pioneer to help establish and expand Salesforce AI Research Center in Asia. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Allison. And Nitish?
Hey, Nick. Thanks for having me here. I'm Nitish. I'm the lead data scientist in the LSEG Labs in Singapore. So just maybe a quick overview of what LSEG Labs are. We're an innovation team, right? We try to use like machine learning, any sort of emerging technologies like natural language processing to solve problems in the field of finance. So as data scientists, as you'd expect, we do these sort of like the dirty work, like cleaning data, but at the same time building models and then trying to explain models and making it explainable to our stakeholders, to potential users in the future. We generally tackle wide range of topics in the field of finance, which I'll surely cover during the rest of the talk. My background is in quant finance, so with some experience in asset management and banking. So yeah, I'm very excited to have this chat with you, Nick and Allison, and just hear what all of us have to say.
Thank you very much, Nitish. So LSEG Labs has recently set up the Sustainable Finance Unit, and Allison, perhaps you can explain a little bit more about why this was set up and what some of the objectives are, both for LSEG and also for the industry.
Yeah, sure. Happy to share. So LSEG has always had a strong focus in sustainability space. And by launching a unit that's dedicated to sustainable finance, we hope to enhance our offerings. Given LSEG's position at the heart of global financial markets, we are well placed to support issuers and investors in their transition to a low carbon economy and also access to a deep pool of capital. And I think it's synergistic for us to be in this part of the world, given that Singapore is also at the heart of the international capital markets. So these helps to bring together stakeholders that's needed to support the sustainability transition efforts, both regionally and globally. We hope to accelerate innovation and advance technology, and we can draw a lot from our deep domain expertise in financial markets, AI data science capabilities, which I am sure Nitish has a lot to say. We work with customers and partners to identify the opportunities and assess what can be done to solve pressing problems faced by the wider industry in our journey to a greener future.
And this is about, I guess this is about building out an ecosystem and obviously working very closely with the regulators, financial institutions and market participants. That's correct, right?
Yes, you're right. So we do work very closely with the players that you have mentioned. We're really excited to also gain the backing of the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, to support the business, finance, and investor community. Besides projects as one of the key things that we're doing, we also hope to, I would say, galvanize various players in this ecosystem to be more sensitive to these topics on sustainability so that we can all be ready for this change. This will involve close collaborations with the regulators for sure, the financial institutions, other companies, and we do so across a few platforms, like participating in industrial forums, workshops, or working on joint projects to raise awareness, interest, help develop the required capabilities and knowledge, and come up with new products and solutions. But very importantly, we also want to contribute to professionalism in sustainable finance and build a strong talent pool and pipeline, be it empowering existing financial professionals with new perspectives or tools, or grooming new talents by providing them exposure through real work and internship.
Interesting. Thank you, Allison. So I want to start to get into kind of like the nitty gritty of kind of what LSEG Labs is up to. Obviously, this journey ahead sounds kind of packed with excitement, all these different various initiatives. One of the overarching challenges, I guess, across the region relates to corporate reporting. And this is an area I think that you're very much focused on as well, Allison.
Yes. I'm sure through this event and all the other times, we've heard this pain point mentioned countless times, that there is a lack of reliable, consistent, comparable data and how the users make sense of those data. So there is huge opportunity to do something in this space, and which is why we decided to move in this direction. Currently, we're working on a project called Augmented Capabilities for ESG Corporate Reporting, in which we harness the power of AI and data analytics to derive insights from various sources of structured and unstructured ESG data. LSEG has breadth and depth of financial data, ESG data, scores, and other offerings. And for the labs, we have strong expertise in AI and data science capabilities, such as NLP, stats analysis. So combining the two, we hope to develop broad-based capabilities in anomaly detection, confidence matrix, trends. And through this project, we hope to enable users, such as regulators, asset managers, advisory, to be able to process high volumes of data across multiple timeframes, entities, to have a consistent view of this ESG space. So this not only increases trust and transparency, but also helps them to carry out tasks such as making investment decisions, improving quality of reporting, or assessing readiness of insurers.
Thank you. And Nitish, you're obviously lead data scientist there. Perhaps you could kind of elaborate on this and get into kind of the crux of kind of the data elements and what you're up to and your team are up to.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, I mean, I'm sure when we listen to a lot of conferences like this, and the first thing or two main things which we always hear is lack of standard and greenwashing. And I agree, if these two are problems for building like machine learning models, if a data is not good, if the data is not reliable, it's going to be tough to build models which is reliable as well. But on the other hand, we feel like there's a scope in actually using these machine learning and data science and NLP techniques in solving this problem directly. So one such thing, I think, which Allison had brought about was this augmented capabilities. One thing we can think of is we have this wide, rich data set of like scores, filings, news. Is it possible to identify which companies are like sort of outliers or anomalies in this set? And why are they anomalies? Like we have there's this new field of explainable AI, which is becoming very popular, where we can use those sort of techniques and try to say, okay, this company has something unique, which could be bad or good, but most probably good is always good for people. Maybe they can make decisions on investing in the companies or taking decisions on that, or bad in the sense like maybe they need to go and evaluate what's wrong with that score. What is it because they decided to like add some information which is not true? And all these sort of capability, especially in this topic of corporate reporting, is possible now because of all the advancements in machine learning, NLP. It would have been very hard if we didn't have this capability to process like millions of documents in one go. One more thing, which I think is important in this topic is, again, we hear about frameworks a lot and how companies are like asked to be part of certain frameworks in their corporate reporting. Some things which you've been thinking about is, can we analyze how good the company's corporate reporting is compared to a given framework? Again, using natural language processing, using all techniques. And again, data, it's very important. And we are lucky to be in a company like LSEG, which has such huge corpus of data, which assists us in doing this. Or actually the other way as well, right? Like, can we assist corporates in trying to report based on a standard, based on a framework? Because it's not easy, especially if you're looking at SMEs. They won't necessarily have the manpower, and they don't have the people to actually do these sort of filings and proper standards. They find it difficult. So I feel like, there's a huge scope in the topic of corporate reporting, using machine learning, AI, and any sort of emerging technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. So I mean, as a firm that's busy doing this, in the weeds of it all, Nitish, I mean, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that you face, your firm faces with trying to use some of these advanced techniques?
I think, I mean, nothing comes easy. I think everything has difficulties, and we face a lot of issues in terms of like data. For example, when we get data, and I'm not talking about like standards and all that, that problem is still there. But if I think of like unstructured data, like news, it's a very noisy data set. We know that there is something important there. We know that there is something which we can provide information tools based on that to our users. But we know when we work with it, we see how noisy it is. And I think it's a big problem. And in the sense, like we always, whenever we work on projects, we always try to build like custom cleaning models based on the use case, trying to make sure that we don't like have too much noise, and at the same time we don't let go of important stuff during this sort of filtering process. And I think that's sometimes it's something like you need to do, but it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort to do it, and you need to have the capability to do it. And that's where it sort of gets challenging. Yeah. I think one other challenge I can think of is like how, I mean, at the end, we are in the finance business, and there are a lot of these data sets which are not with finance in its mind. The data like news, for example, right? It's general news you see everywhere. And how do you link that to assets, financial companies? I think I just, in the previous talk, I heard people talking about this, and I think it's a very big problem. Like, it's not easy to go and say that this news cost is related to this company specifically, because sometimes news can be at a sector level or at a country level. There some important decisions you need to make there. And also, linking it to stock is one thing, or linking it to a company is one thing. Linking it to price actions about companies is another totally different problem. So I think we've tried solving this. We have solved it in some of our projects. But one thing we know is like every data set, this is sort of like a custom problem which we need to solve. And I think this sort of extends into like other alternate data sets as well. For example, like geospatial data. Again, I've heard a lot of people talk about it. It's a buzzing topic in this field. But then again, how do you link geospatial data to specific companies? You need to have very high resolution data for like geospatial data sometimes to be able to do it. Sometimes you could make do with slightly lower resolution, but in most cases you need that high resolution data, which sometimes it is available, but it's very tough to process and very tough to make sense of. So I think it's all tough problems, but I think for us we like these sort of challenges, and that's what we're trying to take up and solve. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Allison, do you have anything kind of to add to that? I think you're on mute.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, no. I think Nitish has given something really comprehensive. And, besides all the alternate data, there's also open source data that's available, and looking at how that's going to be used in public-private partnership. We have a lot of many fintech companies coming through, and also and also larger data providers like LSEG. We need to think about how to use data for meaningful insights, for alpha generation, and the investors that learn to use such data and transform into something meaningful will be the ones to derive the most benefits out of it. Yeah,
definitely. So once these projects are kind of proven successful, you found that use case or use cases for them, what's that next stage? And how is the industry going to engage and interact and kind of use this on a day-to-day basis? Perhaps, Nitish, you can kind of answer kind of that.
Yeah, so generally how labs, as LSEG Labs, we work is we work towards building a proof of concept. So, we go and tap the market, try to understand what the problems are, find data science solutions, engineer a bit of it, get user feedback on what the problems are, and at the same time, once we build a solution, go and get feedback on what people think about these solutions. So currently, for example, all our products, what we end up doing is we have this sort of proof of concept phase where we have external users actually using it. So all our projects, people give feedback. We have like a 4 to 6 week period where people use it. We actually provide them a live product which they can use and they can give us feedback on. So I think as labs, these are sort of our expertise, and we try to do this as well as possible. Once we get all the necessary feedbacks, and as you mentioned, trying to make sure that certain success criteria are sort of satisfied, we then work with the company. And as all of us know, since LSEG merged with Refinitiv, we're one of the biggest providers of data providers in the industry. So in terms of our user interfaces or in terms of data feeds, I think we have a huge distribution channel. And I think we work with the company to make sure that these sort of like all the work we have done is distributed to all our users. I think obviously the data science part is maybe what I was touching on, but we do have teams like a user research team who also try to understand what's the best way to deliver these sort of products. So we talk to the users, try to understand like, would you prefer this as a feed or would you prefer this in a user interface? If you prefer it as a user interface, how do you want it? Where do you want it? So all these feedback is sort of what we provide back to the company, which will help them in like putting these sort of products into our distribution or suite of products very quickly. Yeah. And there's one more thing is I think we do the engineering part of it is also not straightforward, right? Like building a MLOps pipeline to train this model automatically and make sure that if there are new type of data come, how do you process it? So again, we have a very strong engineering team who looks at trying to do these sort of like automation and make it ready so that again, when we pass it to a different team to make it productionized, it's an easy process.
Thank you, Nitish. So I'm keen on understanding kind of what's next for the Sustainable Finance Unit or LSEG Labs in the region. Allison, perhaps you can kind of elaborate on that.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I would say that there is really no shortage of work in sustainable finance, and especially in this region. ESG has so many touch points, dimensions, and complexities to navigate and work through. We need to have a well-defined green taxonomy, reliable data sets, useful tools, and also very importantly, the regulators and the markets, they need to incentivize what are the right products, what are the right activities for us to go in that direction. However, I strongly believe is that where there's adversity, there's also opportunity and innovation. So for the immediate term, we will continue with our work to tackle the issues in ESG corporate reporting through our project. It's a fundamental and overarching problems. I mean, there are multiple angles to explore. It's no end, like what Nitish has mentioned a lot. Firstly, you need to have the tools to quantify performance, to help navigate all these complexities, frameworks. Then, also about you need to look at covering diverse sectors and asset classes. You need to be able to quantify risk exposure, uncover vulnerabilities, and after you need to monitor the performance and verify the actions and delivery. So there are so many angles that we could go into, so many different smaller projects, and after there's also multiple stages of work to help join up this fragmented space. So that's for like the immediate term. And
sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Just so at the same time, I think labs will be doing what we've always done. We partner with business units, customers, and other stakeholders to proactively identify areas of opportunities and access what we can build, solutions we can propose to overcome the challenges. Yeah.
I was going to say lots to be done then. So with a few minutes left of this session, perhaps some parting words before we kind of wrap up. Allison, some thoughts?
Yeah. So it has been an amazing event of technical immersion. So I thought I'll just end this on a more philosophical note. I would request actions and patience. Actions meaning commitment from everyone to play an active role in making the world greener. So big corporations or even countries may be able to make faster turns on the wheels, but it's also the actions of each individual and each household to make conscious purchase decisions that would ultimately affect the way how business must operate. And as for patience, I mean, ESG is this new paradigm, and the wider industry is still trying to make sense of it. How do you grapple with externalities? How do you unlock the ESG potential and embed it into your business operations? Not every player is going to be at the same pace or place. So preach patience, because the ESG seeds that you plant today or even a year before may not germinate until many years after. So everything takes time. Transformation takes time. Improvements takes time to show in balance sheets. So investors should be more patient. And for countries and companies that are lagging, instead of pointing fingers, I think the ones who are ahead should help them and together make progressive and determined moves forward. So those are my concluding thoughts.
Yeah, some very good points there at the end. And Nitish, from your side, a few final remarks.
Sure. No, Allison went the philosophical route. I'll go the more excitement route. So I'm very excited about, as a data scientist, I think this field is becoming very interesting. And finance in general, right? It went through this sort of transition at some point where normal fundamental data was not enough. You had to move and try different data sets to like get alpha and to do proper, interesting investment decisions. And I think while data science is I still feel a bit nascent in the field of sustainable finance, I see a lot of scope here. So, and as LSEG Labs, we have the expertise in data science, machine learning, in all our previous projects. And I think this sustainable finance unit, which is being set up now, I think it's an amazing opportunity for us to use all that experience and as Allison mentioned, all those interactions we'll have with the ecosystem here, trying to bring all this together and find interesting solutions. It's interesting times.
Fantastic. Thank you both very much. So that's about it for this session today. I would like to thank both Allison and Nitish from LSEG Labs for this special fireside chat. And obviously, we'd like to thank you all for listening to the session and being with us throughout this afternoon. It's been my pleasure to host the event today. Thank you all to the speakers who've given up their time to share their expertise. Particular thanks to the regulatory keynotes and sharing their updates as well. I'd like to thank our sponsors, including Amazon Web Services, LSEG, Bloomberg, Fair Supply, Munich Re, and Wolters Kluwer. We'll be running these sessions on demand on Regulation Asia and on ESG Investor over the coming weeks, so please do look out for that. Our next event in February 2022 will be focused on crypto regulation, a subject we didn't talk about too much today, and obviously a topic that's front and center across APAC at the moment. We look forward to seeing you there, so thank you all very much and have a good evening.